Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Spyderco Pattadese. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Maybe not. There's a link for this guy right down in the description if you want to check out pricing or if you want to check it out for yourself. It's listed down there for your convenience. Thank you so much to, let me make sure this is folded correctly, Coffee Herbert for sending this in for me to take a look at. I appreciate that. This knife will be returning to him when I'm done. Thanks to my generous patrons who are supporting me. There's a link for Patreon down below. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. We're going to kind of speed through this one here real quick. Overall length, and sorry, it won't lay perfectly straight. Overall length of the Pattadese is coming in at about a little less than 7¼ inches. Blade length is coming in at about 3 1/8, and your cutting edge is coming in at about 3 inches. How about some size comparisons? We'll just do a couple here. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. You can see the Rat 1 is quite a bit larger. How about up against the Spyderco Pattadese? It definitely compares most closely, with, as far as the knives I've got here, with the Spyderco Pattadese. Spyderco Pattadese being 7¼ inches overall, just with a little bit more body presence. Feels like a weird way to say that. How about up against the Benchmade Bug Out? You can see the Benchmade Bug Out is similar in terms of like maximum height profile, but it is a little bit longer. I think that's probably all the more we need. Should we do the little Rat? How about that? Little Rat. Pretty darn close to the same size as the smaller Rat 2. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Pattadese. You can see here, yes, these are aftermarket scales, but they're the same thickness as the stock scales. It's just about the same. There's some slight contouring, just ever so slight contouring on this guy. So it's about the same thickness with some contouring, so you don't notice it quite as much. Length and height up against the PM2 and Pattadese. You can see here, this guy's pretty skinny. Even at maximum height this way, it's nowhere near the same height as the Pattadese. So yeah, it's gonna pocket fairly easily. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness. Get out my calipers, which of course, nope, they're right there. That's good. Blade stock thickness on the Pattadese coming in at, boy, 85 thousandths. Is that correct? I'm gonna say probably. We'll measure it one more time, just for good measure. Oh, that was lame. Yeah, very thin on the blades. Sorry about my voice. Second round of just wintry as we transition into winter in Kansas. It's just a mess, but I'm fine. Let's go ahead and take a look at the internals here. You can see, well, maybe you can't. I'll get my flashlight out. And we have some things sticking to the magnet. There we go. We have just a little bit of internal milling with those steel liners, more so on the show side scale than anywhere else. Outside of that, we are looking at, of course, like I said, steel liners, contoured G10 and CPM 20 CV. Give you guys a close-up of that G10 there. Looks nice. Weight on this guy. Let's go ahead and weigh it. Coming in at 2.72 ounces. Pretty good on the ratios there. I think most people are going to be pretty happy with how this is going to carry. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. We'll get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the description. And also at the very top of the comment section. I also pin them there. I never say that. I believe it looks like the pivot is probably a T8. So we're going to do that here real quick. And yeah, that is the case on both sides. And then I'm not going to check the rest of this hardware. That's a T8 holding in the pocket clip. Then we have T6 for the body screw and then T8 for the opposing side. So let's go ahead and talk about this knife. This is a Spyderco that's got an opening hole that works very well if you're just going to sort of wheel it out. Or if you're going to sort of flick it out right, but it's one of those Spydercos that has very minimal access back here. You know, I understand the liner locks on this side, but when I think of Spyderco knives, I think of, you know, I think of the reverse flick. And people would say, you don't need to do that. So you don't need to flick your knives out like that. Like you're going out of your way to do something fidgety. I would argue that I've been carrying the Spyderco Para 3 for so long and using it for so long that this is actually now more second nature than this, right? If you want to argue with me about that, just remember there was a time where thumb studs were considered these brand new fancy things, and why would anyone ever need that, right? The lockback's fine, just open your knife with two hands, right? Or flippers, right? People are like, oh, flippers, all fancy, oh, this, we don't need that, right? Everything is that, right? So if if you consider the whole reverse flick thing a show-offy sort of unnecessary means of opening your knife, right? You've just reached the point where you are drawing the line between what you consider to be utilitarian and straightforward, or convenient and straightforward, and show-offy and flashy and unnecessary, right? So anyways, what I'm saying there is it's a Spyderco. I want to be able to get my finger in there and reverse flick it, right? But I can't. So it's kind of frustrating. But, like I said, it's a liner lock. Speaking of the liner lock, I do not understand why the engagement, I know somebody's going to give me a reason, right? I'm sure there's a reason for it. Whatever the reason is, I don't like it. This engagement area right here is way too low. Just put it up here so that I can catch this. Here's the problem. If I want to bring where your thumb is, where I disengage, this is what we normally do with our knives, right? Liner lock knife. We disengage and then we go to close it with our index finger, and guess what? The part of the blade that's contacting my finger is not sharp, so then I can move my finger out of the way and close it, right? So the whole thing really quickly looks like this. Easy. Not the case with this knife. If you do that, guess what? The blade is coming down on your fingernail. Not a big deal, but if you close it too quickly, you might catch the tip or the fleshy part of your finger, or it might cut through your fingernail. Why? Well, here's the reason why, Complex. Whatever it is, it's a bad reason. And it needs to be up here, right? Now, I'm kind of, what I'm doing there is I'm saying I don't care about what anybody else thinks, and I only want it to be my way, which is something I come down on other people for. So, let's, jokes aside, maybe there is a reason, right? It depends on who you are and how you have been interacting with your knife, how your hands have been interacting with your knife, right? And your preferences for things. It seems to be most of the time when we deal with locking knives that disengage in this area, we use something like this to, right? Let's imagine that the lock was up here, right? We've disengaged and, oh, look, that's perfect because this part has now come down and contacted my finger and then I can close it, right? Most liner lock and frame lock knives that are of reasonable quality to high quality and have good designs. In fact, even most of them that have mediocre or even crappy overall designs, they still allow you to do that because it seems like that's kind of a second nature thing. That's what most people want to do, right? Is disengage it like that. So I don't like this. I wish that it was moved higher, right? Ergonomics, it's kind of like holding on to a cucumber that's got a growth at the end. I mean, like a tiny cucumber, right? I'm not going to say it's uncomfortable, but it is certainly not like, oh God, oh, that's cozy, right? Now, I mean, like if I needed to hold this and use it like a knife, well, yeah, I'm going to be able to do it, right? But it doesn't feel like an object that was perfectly shaped for the human hand, and I think most of you probably can gather that just by looking at it. You don't really need me to tell you this. I am 99% certain that this is based off of some, design from history, some knife design from history. And I know you're thinking, well, you probably should, if you think that, you should probably look it up to confirm it. I mean, I want to critique what it is and what I'm feeling rather than the history about it, right? So if it was based on something from history, I'm glad that we have moved on from it because ergonomically, it kind of sucks. It's not terrible, but it's like, wow, this is a thing that you have to use your hands on, and it is not wonderful. It's just, this is the part that you hang on to while you're cutting. I appreciate this area right here because it does, give sort of that indicator like, hey, don't move your finger any further forward or you're going to, cut yourself. So that's nice. The edges are all nicely chamfered. In fact, fit and finish on this guy is really good. This is one of the Italian Spydercos, the Maniago, Italy. I always wanted to say Menaggio, which is not correct. Yeah, fit and finish, honestly, pretty good. This is running on phosphor bronze washers, and legitimately, it's one of those Spydercos that feels really good on phosphor bronze, right? Despite not having the best means of disengagement or most convenient or most fluid, I guess. Boy, it's smooth for being on PB. It's nice, right? If I could get that kind of action, I don't need it to fall shut. I could care less. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I couldn't care less. I don't understand why people say I could care less. That means you care a certain amount, and there's an amount that you know of less care that could be applied to the situation, right? In a situation where you're trying to emphasize how little you care, it doesn't make sense to me to say it like that. I couldn't care less, meaning I have the minimum of care associated with the circumstances. What am I talking about today? Anyways, what the heck was I talking about? Anyways, fit and finish, very good, very nice. I like it. It's just, again, it's like the final, the polishing on this is good. It's just the final product is kind of bothersome. Anyways, the hardware, actually kind of like how the hardware looks. It's a little bit different for Spyderco, but yeah, it looks pretty good. The blade is a satin finished. It's weird. It's like we have this. It's almost like it's a Para 3 or PM2 sort of Pelican blade, but they've opted to abruptly almost change angles as the blade, comes out to the tip. What you are left with is an unbelievably fine, sort of needle-like tip, and very, very thin down at the edge. What's the blade steel? It might shock you to find out that that's M390, which is cool. M390 is a good steel. I know people, you just ranted about M390. Remember, in that video, I wasn't saying M390 is a bad steel at all. M390 is a great steel composition, but it doesn't need to. We don't need to automatically associate the highest value with it. But yeah, that might still surprise people because we see a lot of foreign Spydercos in S30V, as we do. I guess we see a lot of Spydercos in general in S30V. Kind of sick of the satin finish. Spyderco satin finish, honestly, just kind of sick of it. I like their tumbled finish, which I have seen from everywhere, except for the Chinese stuff, right? So it would have been cool if they had applied that, but that's okay. No jimping or anything like that on the spine. The corners of this blade are pretty sharp enough to shave my fingernails, but that's not that big of a deal. You're probably not going to have your thumb up here too often. The blade is going to be very performance oriented, and I think the geometry is really going to properly accentuate the performance of CPM 20CV in the settings that this knife was designed to be used in. So that's nice when everything is sort of holding hands, geometry and design purpose or theory of use, whatever was applied when the designer was creating this knife. What I think a lot of people might find interesting is that this was a Sal Glesser design. So we have the insignias right on the Para 3 Sal Glesser. Same with is it on the Shaman? Yeah, Spyderco Shaman. I'm trying to think. I think like the Mannix has Eric Glesser's insignia on it. It kind of has that. I mean, it in some ways looks like a cousin to the Spyderco Para 3 or PM2. It's just doing its own thing. Let's see here. The wire clip, it kind of works. It drops well past the 50% line on this the knife handle, so you can definitely feel it, right? Bigger handle or smaller. I'm kind of on this thought process where pocket clips in general need to be shorter. And it's probably from clips like the MXG Deep Carry clip that they have led me to believe that they're just more comfortable in the hand, especially like right here. I mean, I'm feeling that all the way up into here, and probably less pronounced. I don't think it needs to be like this. The other thing that bothers me about the wire clip is that the bill comes out and points down. I don't like that. Shave this part off completely and just end it right here. And then make this loop. That way it's rising to meet whatever thickness of pocket seam as you push it into your pants. And it's shorter, right? And it's not so, but this thing pointing, that's just going to fight any pocket seam that is thicker or rises higher than the tip of this bill. you're just gonna have to fight it, and that sucks. But for the most part, it's gonna, it's pretty high, so it'll get over those pocket seams. Let's go ahead and talk about Lockout here, because the non-show side is, very similar to the show side. Actually, I'll make a comment here. They have opted to make the lanyard hole a priority over the pocket clip, which many of you know is something that burns me to the core. Stop prioritizing the lanyard holes, right? You have a crowd with a grand total of 7 or 8 people who are like, oh, we love lanyard holes. And then the rest of the knife world is like, yeah, we don't care. So this is ridiculous, right? I mean, it can always be placed back here, and you always have that way the lanyard people have it. But the pocket clip, and it's fine. In this position, it's fine. It's just the way that I've realized that the way that I've set this up is saying that every pocket clip needs to be as deep as possible to be considered good. No, I just don't like, right? In a different design, this might have really killed it for carry depth, right? So I always complain about it when I can. But lanyard holes should never be prioritized over the position of the clip. The position of the clip should be the utmost importance between the two, right? So that carry depth and angle and all of that can be considered. They get that right first, and then you can throw a little lanyard bar or whatever, a little doohickey somewhere, right? Because who cares? Those are my thoughts on that. Lockout on this guy, completely and totally solid. Where is the stop pin? It's right here. Not anything massive, but it doesn't need to be, right? Your engagement for the liner lock is coming in at something like 65% or so. Pivot lash. Boy, there actually is a little bit of, you hear it? That's pivot lash, meaning the barrel is not cut to fit perfectly the hole that's in the blade. So the blade is actually just slightly wobbling around it. Does that affect performance? Not really. It's kind of something that I check now to see how well everything was machined. Are they all like that? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. This one is a little tiny bit. Detent? Yeah, I think the detent's just fine. No detent play or anything like that. How's the centering? Pretty close. It's off by a little bit. I think it's probably because this knife is used, so we're going to give it a quick turn. Gosh darn it, I keep pulling the T7. Let's try tightening it up just a little bit and see if it comes back. No, it actually goes further that way. I was saying I needed to loosen it. Interesting. Okay, so I loosened it. Let's see if we have blade play. Nope. Okay. That just made the action better. Okay, that's great. So here's the deal. Recapping. I hate the position of the lock disengagement. I hate it, right? The design, while I'm sure it's based on some knife design from history, it yields less than ideal ergonomics, and it is very specifically uncomfortable. Not to the point where I'm like, ow, this is like squeezing a pine cone, but, not great. Sick as satin finishes, that's a personal preference thing, right? Otherwise, the blade is pretty good. I don't know why some knives are still prioritizing lanyard holes over the pocket clip, but in this case, it's not really hurting that much. The bill on the wire clip, which is the same with all wire clips, again, that needs to be just shaved off. It should never angle down. That's so weird. I don't like that. Shaved off, maybe shortened up just a little bit. I think the wire clip could definitely just be improved universally. Here's the big issue with this knife. I was shocked to find out that this knife is priced at $203. I don't know what manufacturing costs are in Italy, but we have some other examples floating around in the knife world that leads me to believe that it should be the same or less, not that much different from U.S. manufacturing. I don't know. I'm not a professional in this area, right? But I'm thinking DLT has done a few CPM 20 CV, which is an analog to M390 sprint runs of the, let's use the Spyderco Pattadese 3 as an example. Pretty sure those came in at $150, $160. Okay, let's say $170. What on earth is making this knife cost a minimum of almost $35 more than that? I have no idea. I think this would have been great at like $160. right? Or let's say 170. It would have made a lot more sense to me. It would have been a lot more competitive. Shoot, I mean, Benchmade has the bug out in G10 and 20 CV, and even that thing, which is almost like the vast majority of the knife, even people who love that knife will go, yeah, it's pretty overpriced. What on earth? Why is this that makes no sense to me. There are a lot of reasons here for me to not recommend this Spyderco. This is just, there's too much here that makes me go, I don't really want to carry this. I mean, like, build quality is good. If you're watching this one, I just realized I told everybody this is going to be a short video. It's obviously not going to be a short video. Build quality is good. Like the lockup and everything. I mean, if you're wondering about like longevity, well, yeah. I mean, this is going to last. But as far as a tool that I want to reach for and put in my pocket and use, no. There's too much here that bothers me, and the price is really the cherry on top of it. It's just like, wow, that's just way, even considering everything that's been going on and price increases, it's like, that's too much. I mean, you know, it's not the biggest kick in the face that I've seen in the knife world, certainly not. So let's not, you know, I don't want to, like, you know, suggest that I'm like, let's burn everything down. No, calm yourself. Calm yourself. We've seen way bigger kicks to the face in the knife world. This is just, you know, generally speaking, it's just overpriced. So this one's not for me. It might be for you. I'll link it down below like I usually do so that you guys can make that choice for yourself. This one's not for me. But I do appreciate, you know, the opportunity to check it out. Sorry, trying to get his information here. Coffee Herbert, thank you so much for sending this in. I legitimately do appreciate it. You know, any Spyderco I can get a chance to look at that's a different design, I always want to look at it. So yeah, thank you so much. That's going to be pretty much it today, guys. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.